ओम सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्। ओम वक्रतुण्डमहाकाय सूर्यकोटिसमप्रभ निर्विघ्नं कुरु मे देव सर्वकार्येषु सर्वदा। सरस्वती नमस्तुभ्यं वरदे कामरूपिणि विद्यारम्भं करिष्यामि सिद्धिर्भवतु मे सदा। गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णुः गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः साक्षात् परं ब्रह्म तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः। So we were looking at the vision which gives meaning to our way of life. So many different examples from our way of life we saw in the last two classes, where it was shown how our vision of God, in fact the word God itself we are using provisionally, because I think God brings in unnecessary concepts, the word itself, because it has its own connotations. Culturally, it's a Western word, English word, it has its own connotation. So going forward, in fact, today we may even give up the word God. Okay, we don't want to say God, but if at all we have to say, because others are saying that we have one God, many gods, and all that. So we saw that our vision is that there is only God. So how do we understand this vision better? So here we saw that this is the vision of the Veda. The Vedas have this vision about the creator, let us say. Okay, because if there is a world here which we are encountering every day, is there a creator of this world? It's a very valid question. Many people have asked this question and tried to find the answer also. Now, can we infer, logically establish that there is a creator? In fact, even in India, there is a darshana called Nyaya Darshana. Nyaya. They claim that they can establish that there is a creator, okay, logically through inference. But that is again questionable, because just by inference, let us say, even if we establish there is a creator, we cannot still establish there is only one creator. Even let us say there is a creator or creators. How many creators are there? Like that, the question is there. Only one creator is there. How can we say that? Because in the world, different things are created by different people, correct? There is not one single creator for everything. Even within the world, if we see. But even more fundamentally, to talk about a creator, we have to establish that the world itself is a creation. Even that cannot be established only by inference or logic. Okay, let us understand that first. But still, there are two ways of looking at it. Okay, because currently there are evolutionary scientists are there, materialists. Okay, they say that everything um, due to some random natural changes and natural selection and all they talk about, correct? Over a long period of time, that the world is there like whatever it is there today. Okay, in fact, somebody has written a book called Blind Watchmaker and all that. Because this watchmaker analogy is used a lot. So let us say that I tell you that I went to Switzerland. Okay. And then in Switzerland, I went into the Alps mountain and there is a spring, natural spring. And from that spring, watches are coming. So I picked up a watch and that is the watch I'm wearing. in my hand. Now, if I tell you like that, you may not take me seriously. Okay. Why? Because watch is something which cannot come naturally, like that. Instinctively, you have a thought. How can somebody say that watch can come naturally from a spring? So why do you even think like that? That is because a watch is put together. Not put together means just you do not take all the parts of watch and just throw it together. Then also it is not a watch, correct? If you take all the parts of a car and lump it together, it will only become a dump yard. It's not going to become a car, correct? So you have to put it together according to a design. Okay, this is the intelligent design argument. Okay, so if anything you can establish that it is intelligently put together, since there is intelligence involved, it cannot be there naturally. Okay, so there has to be, if anything is intelligently put together, there has to be a creator, like that we can argue. The other argument is that everything is arbitrarily evolving and all that with natural forces, and even then how life really formed and all, they don't have any argument. But they just claim that they do not want to accept a creator. Okay, there is one group of scientists and all that. They want to somehow establish that everything arbitrarily evolved. Okay, let me say that. That is one paksha or one side. The other side is all theologically motivated, and they are claiming that God created and creation itself is intelligently put together, and there has to be a creator. Now, out of these two, both are do not have any clinching argument. I can tell you that much. Okay, but which is acceptable, more reasonable? If you see, we have to say that this world is really intelligently put together. So much intelligence is there, correct? So much order is there everywhere. That's what we have been already talking about. So even in the scientific laws, there is a certain order, there is a certain intelligence, and also there are too many things in this world which are mutually dependent. So, for example, let us say you are born as a human being. There is so much intelligence in each and every part which is functioning in your body, which was even talked about yesterday. Now, all this intelligence, we did not willfully put it there or anything. We did not. Your father did not design your body, or your mother did not design or put together your body. Right? In fact, if they had a choice, I think they would have made us differently. But so your father and mother again are only let us say an instrument. They are not the real makers of you or anything. So they did not really design and make you. They are also an instrument, and through them you have come about. You are born and all that. But what we find is that in our own body there are a lot of physiological processes which are happening. Biologically, so many things are happening. Chemically, so many things are happening. Physically, electromagnetically, so many systems are happening in your body. So much intelligence is there in all that. And also many things are mutually dependent also. See, your heart has to pump blood everywhere. Then only the organs will function. And heart itself requires blood to be pumped for it to function. Now this is a mutual dependence, correct? Then how did whether the blood first pump itself and flow, so that heart started pumping, like that there are problems are there even in this. Then we have to say the heart started pumping because mother's heart is already pumping and from their blood. So blood came and then it started working and all, we have to say. That means wherever there is mutual dependence, there has to be a third thing which has started these two things together. That's how we have to understand it, correct? So if we see many mutually dependent things which are there in this universe, that also how do we resolve that? And so looking at all these things, I would say that this intelligently put together is a reasonable stand. I won't claim that it is totally we can establish it through inference or logic or anything, but rather than saying that everything evolved arbitrarily through natural forces and all that, that argument seems to be, in fact, even the scientists themselves claim that a very, very minuscule probability is there for that. But since it is already there here, we have to assume that even if a minuscule probability is there, whatever we say is correct and all they are saying. But I don't really buy that argument. Okay. So intelligently put together is a more reasonable way of looking at these things. And once if we accept that the world is intelligently put together, there is some intelligence, there is a certain design in the whole thing, then we can say that there has to be a creator. Then we have to say the world is a creation then. So here the main problem is to establish the world as a creation. So many people do not accept that world is a creation. Even many darshanas within our country, they say that world is world. It is always like this. It was never created. That is one argument. See, even among physicists, there are different views are there. Some people talk about Big Bang. So everything was in one singularity and all they say. That means everything was undifferentiated into one point, and from there everything burst out like a Big Bang. Others also have a theory called steady state theory and all that, which doesn't talk about any Big Bang. Scientifically, if you see also, there are, even for the physical world, they are talking about different theories. So there is nothing which is actually established. Knowledge is not there in all these things, let me say. So that being the case, we should say that considering the world as something which is intelligently put together and taking it as a creation is a very reasonable stand to take. And why we should take this stand also, I'll further talk about it later. But as of now, I hope this much we can say that world is something which is intelligently put together. Therefore, we take that as a creation. And if it is a creation, it has to be creator. And here also we cannot just say there is only one creator or many creators, or what is the material with which we created this. Because whenever we talk about creation, okay, let us say a pot. Pot is a creation, watch is a creation. Now it has two types of causes we have to talk about. One is the material cause. Material cause comes along with the creation or the effect. I buy a pot, clay is the material, or gold is the material. I buy a golden pot. No, gold comes along with the pot, correct? Because the material is always there. The material cause is really not different from the effect. It is there along with the effect. But there is a goldsmith, watchmaker, potter, all these people are also there. They are the intelligent cause. They are the ones who made whatever is created using the material and some other instruments and all that. So there is, broadly we have to talk about an intelligent cause and a material cause. Whenever we talk about a creation caused by something. Now in Sanskritam, the intelligent cause is called Nimitta Karanam. Okay. So in English, we can simply say maker. Maker is the intelligent cause. Nimitta Karana. Then material is called Upadana Karanam. Upadana Karanam. Nimitta Karanam, Upadana Karanam. So maker, material. Two things at least are required to create anything. Now if we say world is a creation, Then these two things also we have to talk about. What is the material with which it is made, and who is the maker, and whether there is only one maker or many makers. Also we don't know, but as of now let us assume that there is one maker. Now this maker, where did this maker get the material to create this world? If we take the whole universe as a creation, now this maker cannot go and borrow the material from anywhere else. If you want to make roti, or if you want to make idli and you don't have the batter, or you want to make roti, you don't have atta, you want to make bread, you don't have the flour, what do? You can go to the neighbor and borrow it, correct? But here this maker, poor maker, cannot go and borrow from anybody else. Nobody else is there. Nothing else has been created. And you cannot say material also was already there, because if the material is already there, then who created that material? Also one question will come. Then that whoever has made that material is the real maker and all that. So this being the case, how does different theologies address this? So one theology says that God made this world out of nothing. Okay, because God is all powerful. From nothing, God has created all these things. Now that theology we think is illogical, because from nothing something cannot come, even for God. Understand that. From nothing only nothing can be there. If you say that you can create something out of nothing, then I will give you nothing. You give me something, I'll happily take it. Okay. So this theology that God created everything out of nothing is illogical. It cannot be maintained. It cannot be established. It cannot be accepted. So that is not an answer. So then, what does our Veda say? What is the vision of the Veda here? So Veda is coming and telling the Creator created everything out of nothing else. You put one more else, then everything makes sense. So nothing else means what? Creator is also the material. Creator is also the maker. Maker and the material are one and the same. Is that clear? That is our vision. So even in the Upanishad, it says, Yato va imani bhutani jayante, yena jatani jivanti, yat prayanti abhisamvishanti. So yato va imani bhutani jayante, from which all these beings are born. Yena jatani jivanti, by which everything is sustained, is living. Yat prayanti abhisamvishanti, into which everything is resolving or will get resolved. That is this Brahman. Like that, Brahman is the word in fact which is used in our Shastra. In fact, the word God and all we can give up now. Brahman, Bhagavan, Ishvara, these are our words. Let us try to understand our dharma using our words. That way we will understand it much better. Even religion itself is a problematic word. Religion cannot be used for our Hindu dharma, because they have their own connotation of what is a religion. Religion must have a book, have founder, dogma, all these things. None of these things may fit in with our dharma. So it is better to call our dharma as Hindu dharma. Our Ishvara, our creator is Ishvara, Bhagavan, Brahman, all these words are there already. So even in the Brahma Sutra is there, Janmadhyasya Yataha, like that only Brahman itself is defined. The characteristics of Brahman are given as Janmadhyasya Yataha, from whom this Janma, etc. are there. Okay, etc. there means Janma means birth, sustenance, and resolution of this whole Jagat, the whole world. So there is a cause, and the maker and the material are only one. There are no two causes here because we are talking about the entire universe. And what is the analogy which the Veda is giving for this? So it is one analogy is spider. Okay, in the one Upanishad, Mundaka Upanishad, it talks about Yathornanabhis Rijate Grihnate cha. So Urnanabhihi means spider. So spider, when it creates a web, that web itself, it itself is the material cause for that, correct? Because spider creates the web out of its own saliva or whatever, some kind of a secretion from its body. And it is the one which is making the web also. And in fact, if required, it can even roll it back and it can take it back into itself. That's why a spider can come down from the roof, and if you just poke your finger, it will go up, rolling it up into its mouth and taking it back inside. So like that, this is given as an analogy only to show that spider also is a conscious being. So this cause, the material and the maker, is a conscious entity where intelligence can also reside. That is very important for us to understand. Another analogy which is generally given is dream itself, dream world. In dream world, we are creating an entirely new space-time. It is a projection of our own mind. Everybody has dreamt and everybody has that experience. You can relate to that. So this whole Srishti is like the dream of the creator, Ishvara, Bhagavan. Now in all these things, one important thing we have to understand. When we talk about a cause, okay, a cause can become an effect, and in that process it can become changed, modified, parinami we say. So a material can be taken and it can be modified to make it into something else. You take milk and you put some culture into that, it will become curd. Milk has now become curd, correct? If milk becomes curd, there is no more milk left there. Is that clear? So milk was the material cause for curd, but when it became curd, it modified, it metamorphosed, you can say, correct? That is called parinami upadana in Sanskritam. Parinami means changing. It changed itself. It changed its form. Now, did God become this whole world when we say it is the world is a manifestation of Ishvara, Bhagavan? When Ishvara, Bhagavan has become this world means then what? Is Ishvara still there or not? That question is there, correct? That is why we say it is not like milk becoming curd. It is not parinami upadana. Then what is it? Okay, it is like the gold becoming a bangle, iron becoming a nail cutter. Like this, all these examples are all given in the Upanishad. Clay becoming the pot. So when the gold becomes a jewel, did it lose its nature as gold? It is still gold, correct? Gold being gold without losing its nature has become something as up a name and form. That's how we say that. Similarly, Brahman, Ishvara, Bhagavan, without losing one's own nature, being a conscious entity, is manifest, has become this entire world, Jagat, universe, whatever you call it, whatever we encounter, is nothing but the manifestation of a one single reality. And that reality is both the maker and the material. And this makes sense because any other way of looking at it is all illogical. Correct? If you say God in heaven created this world, then who created heaven? Question will come. You have to say God only created heaven. Okay. Then where was God before God created this heaven? You cannot say hell. If God is intelligent God, God won't create hell for himself or herself. So if you ask a couple of questions, all these theologies will fall down. They'll just say, shut up and have faith. Because faith again is a very misused word. Even illogical things you have to believe. That's what they say is faith. So the word faith also, I think we should not use with reference to our traditions. Because many people use the word Hindu faith and all that, which is again is a wrong usage of language. Okay, so we don't have faith. Even Shraddha, there is a word in Indian languages that is also not really faith. Okay, because faith means they say that even illogical things, whatever is against established knowledge, also since their theology is saying that you have to believe it. Now that position also we are not accepting. We are more reasonable people that way. So anyway, so this God in heaven and also is a father only. Some theologies say God is a male, only father. Then where did mother go? We don't know. During the delivery of the world, mother passed away. Maybe we don't know. Then God becomes a widower. All these problems are there. Okay, so the Vedic vision is the most reasonable. There is a conscious entity which is both the maker and the material. So it doesn't have to go anywhere for any material and all that. So creation is really a manifestation of this one conscious entity. So what we really say as creation is not really something new which has come from nowhere. Gold was gold, but gold is now manifest as a particular bangle. Later on, the same gold can again be even melted and you can again manifest some other effect out of that gold, correct? So that is how, but gold still remains gold. Gold has never lost its nature. Like that, Ishvara is always Ishvara. Ishvara is not unaffected by the manifestation of this world. Okay, because the world is only names and forms. In fact, this particular thing, most scientists nowadays understand this very well. That world is nothing but a name and form. Because in the macro level, we see so many things, correct? I am seeing this laptop. This laptop is nothing but a name and a form, correct? And it also has certain function. I am able to use it for certain things. But let us say I go a little bit behind it. Then I have to say this laptop is nothing but some plastic. If I look at it as some plastic or silicon or whatever it is, some material alone. Because when I touch the laptop, I am touching the material. When I touch the bangle, I am touching gold. When I touch the pot, I am really touching the clay, correct? What is there is only the material, substance. The weight of the pot is weight of the clay. When I touch the pot, I am really touching the clay. What is there is only clay. In fact, if you have a gold jewelry, you may look at it as some bangle, chain and all that. But if you want money and you take it to some banker has a different viewpoint, correct? Banker is only seeing gold there. And the weight of the gold alone counts. Nothing else counts for the banker. They will give you money as per that. So they don't care about the name and form. Like that, this entire world is really a name and form. And in fact, names after names will come. So you see there is a clay. You say there is no pot, only clay is the substance. But some other person will come, one scientist will come and say, no, there is really only molecules are there. Or some crystals are there. They are all arranged. And crystals themselves are made up of some molecules. And molecules are made up of atoms. Atoms are made up of subatomic particles, neutrons, protons, electrons. And in fact, scientists will say at that level, 99% is space, really. Because the nucleus is so small in the atom, and the electron cloud is also like very sparse around it. So 99% is space really. Then what about all the solid, liquid, gas, whatever I am really dealing with at the macro level? If you now look at it, the pot is a name. Pot became clay. Clay is another name and form. That became molecules, another name and form. Molecule became another name and form, atom. Atom became another name and form, nucleus, neutron, proton, electron, space. 99% is space. Then what am I seeing? All these things. That is all really a great mystery only, right? Maya. This is what we say, Maya. So this everybody understands now. Okay. So when you look for the truth of the physical world, we go more and more names and names and names. You can reduce it. And finally, they say there has to be an observer at the quantum level. They have come to that level now. But they are not able to talk about it. It is all that. What we are saying is that conscious entity is the basis for this entire creation. And that is the both maker and the material. And this is the most reasonable way of looking at it. And the Veda's vision is that. So everything is one reality. That way we talked about only God, correct? So that is the real vision. There is only God here. Like even in the world of gold, there is only gold. Even though gold is appearing as a bangle, as a earring, as a ring, as a chain, gold is appearing in 100 different ways, 1,000 different names and forms, unlimited names and forms you can have. But in reality, there is only gold, correct? Similarly, there is only one reality, one conscious reality, which is appearing as this entire world, in which, including you. Your body, mind, sense complex also is included in that. That is our vision. And once you understand this vision, everything else makes sense. Okay, all our forms, whether it is religious forms, cultural forms, everything is based on this vision. Then it becomes meaningful. And even we don't have this father mother problem and all that. If you look at the same cause as intelligent cause, it is father. Nimitta karana is father. If you look at it as upadana karana, material cause, it is mother. Because even your own body, the material for your body is from your mother's body, correct? Mother is the material cause for your own body also. Father is only a nimitta. Okay. So the same reality we can look at as father, mother, or together also. That's why we have Ardhanarishwara. We have no problem, gender problem with reference to the creator. Bhagavan and Bhagavati are both okay for us. Whether it is whichever gender it is. Okay. So father, if you look at it as maker, mother, the same reality as material. Shiva, Shakti, Vishnu, Lakshmi, whichever way you want, we can look at it. And creation is only a manifestation, I told you, because everything again, in fact, we do not even accept emptiness or vacuum and all that. Because even to cognize that there is nothing there, there has to be a conscious entity, correct? Always consciousness is there. Conscious entity has to be there. That is why in our culture, zero, although there is a shunya word is there, but most Indian languages, what word do we use for zero? We say pujya. Even in Tamil, they say pujyam. Now, puja means what? Puja means that which is fit for worship. Puja yogya is puja, really. Now, why are we saying it is fit for worship? When nothing is there, why are you saying it is fit for worship? Means even if you remove all names and forms, that conscious entity is always there. That is what is there really. That is the puja. Correct? And even the infinite also is puja for us. The limitless is Brahman. Brahman means limitless really. Limitless also is the same thing because everything is nothing but in reality that thing alone. Even space time is in it. When we talk about creation, understand one more thing. Even like 100 years back and all, scientists were saying space time is absolute. That means it did not come within their theories of creation. But Upanishad, Veda is already saying Tasmadva etasmad atmana akasha sambhutaha. So from this Paramatma, this limitless self, space, space was created. Akasha sambhutaha, space originated. And the commentator Bhashyakara Shankara is saying space means space time also. So space time is created is not something which Einstein found or something with relativity. This is as a concept is always there with us. And we even in Yoga Vasishta, even our concept of time itself is different. Correct? Different people have different concepts of time. Even Brahma's one day is such a big thing compared to a human being's one day. Everything is relative. Even our 6 months is for our Pitris, they are, for them it is one night. This Dakshinayanam is one night, Uttarayanam is their day. So 1 year for us is one day for them. Like this, the time metric itself is different for different beings. That is how we look at it. These are all relative things, and time, space, time can be created, that we know from our own dream itself. You create a totally new space time in the dream, but you are the same. So from all these things, what we understand is, even though all these things are created, they are all already potentially there in this one reality. So everything is potentially there in an undifferentiated state, unmanifest state. And when it becomes manifest, differentiated, we say it is creation. Creation does not mean something which was totally not there has come into being. Whatever is already potentially there only is coming into the being. Like you take a banyan seed, how small it is, but the entire banyan tree is potentially there in the seed, correct? At least some DNA, some software is there. Based on that only the tree is sprouting and it is growing and it has become a banyan tree. Is that clear? So potentially it has to be there in the seed. Otherwise, you cannot say only banyan tree will come from this banyan seed. Anything can come from anything, it will become. But from the banyan seed, only banyan tree is coming means the banyan tree is potentially there in the banyan seed. Similarly, this entire universe is potentially there in Bhagavan. And then it becomes manifest, differentiated means creation has happened. Then it is sustained, it is there. Right now it is there, that's why we are even talking. Then it will become resolved again. Again it will start. That's a cycle. We have a cycle of creation. Our concept of time also is cyclical. So we talk about Kalpa, Yuga, like this. Our concept of time is huge and it is also cyclical. So this Ishvara, Bhagavan, who is the creator, both maker and material, is the reality of everything. Like even gold is the reality of the entire gold world. Iron is the reality of the entire iron world. Like this entire world really is nothing but Bhagavan alone is manifest as all these things without losing oneself, without losing his or her nature. So there is only Ishvara. This is our vision. Only Bhagavan is there. And that is what we say abhinna nimitta upadana karana. Nimitta and upadana means intelligent and material cause, and abhinna means not separate. There is only one entity which is both the intelligent and the material cause. This is how we understand. This is the vision of the Veda. And this is the most reasonable way of putting it also. It is not illogical. But it cannot be totally established by logic also. But that's not a problem. We'll talk about it later. What is knowledge? How do we actually say that this is knowledge, this is error? What are the means of knowledge? How do we know things? All these things also we'll discuss later. But as of now, this vision is something, it has to be very clear to you. Now, Bhagavan is the word, let us say, we will hereafter use, which is again a very neutral word because different sampradayas are there within our country also. Bhagavan can be used whether you are a Shiva Bhakta or a Vishnu Bhakta or any other Bhakta also. Ganesha Bhakta, Muruga Bhakta or Ambika Bhakta, Bhagavan or Bhagavati, we have to say if we want a feminine gender. Now, Bhaga again is a very interesting word. We have to understand that as per our own Shastra, okay, our own tradition. Bhagavan is an interesting word because it is like Balavan. Balavan word even is there in Tamil, correct? It is there in most Indian languages. So Balavan means one who has Balam, strength is a Balavan. Or Dhanavan also is there, correct? One who has Dhanam is Dhanavan. Like that, Bhagavan means one who has Bhaga is Bhagavan. Is that clear? Bhagavan means one who has Bhaga. Now, what is this Bhaga? Bhaga is defined in Vishnu Purana, okay, as the one who has these 6 qualities. Sarva Aishwarya, total overlordship, means what? See, we are all living here under the laws of others, correct? We are all subject to all this. Our national laws are there. More than that, there are some moral laws are there. Even scientific laws are also constraining us. You want to build something, you can only build according to the physical laws, correct? There is a laws of thermodynamics are there. Only within that you are constrained to do whatever you want to do. Even an engineer cannot build anything other. He has to conform to the laws, and within that only you can build. But Ishvara is not constrained by any law. He is his own law. That is the Aishwarya. Sarva Aishwarya means total overlordship, means the one who is not subjected to any other law or anybody's law. That's how we understand. Then Sarva Virya, all power. Bhagavan has all power. No problem with power. No weakness. No tiredness. Okay. Then all glories, all fame is Bhagavan's. No problem there also. In fact, in Bhagavad Gita also there is one Vibhuti Yoga, one whole chapter. There Bhagavan Krishna keeps saying, I am this Vedanam Samavedosmi, Devanam Asmi Vasavaha. Like that, in each category he says, whatever is best, I am that. So all glory is really Bhagavan's glory. We are all only reflected glory we have. Correct? Even see, many of these geniuses and all that, if you go and ask them, how do you do this? Even many times they don't know. They say it just comes. Even the great mathematician was there, Ramanujan, correct? They even made a movie, The Man Who Knew Infinity, like that. But if you see, he says his goddess came in his dream and gave him many of this, whatever theorems and all he has written mathematically. The goddess gave him in his dream, he says. That's why many of them don't even have proof. Even today, they are all sitting and doing PhD. They are doing research to find out proofs. There are Ramanujan notebooks are there. Lot of theorems are there. But there are no steps how he arrived at it or proofs for those things. And many of them, they have proved it also now. After a lot of research and all that, some of them are still left unproved. Things are also there. But he got it. That means he knows that it is a glory. He is not really, it is not his glory. The goddess gave it to him in his dream. Or even great composers and all, they say it just came. Correct? So really, wherever there is this extraordinary talent and all that, but they themselves know. They are all humble people. They know that they are only an instrument. Through them, all these things are manifesting. They cannot claim any ownership or anything on that. So all glories, all fame is to Ishvara only. And also Ishvara has Sarvashri, all wealth, all resources, no lack of anything. Correct? And all knowledge, Sarva Jnana is there. Sarvajnaha, Ishvara is looked upon as the one who has all knowledge. In fact, all knowledge can only be there if there is no need to know anything at all. See, if you have to know something, we have to use our mind, our senses, inference, all these things. Right? That itself is a limitation. You are limited with reference to knowledge because you have to know through your sense organs, inference, and mind only. But Ishvara is not like that. All knowledge means all knowledge is there. No need to know through any means of knowledge, use any means of knowledge. All knowledge is already there. In fact, all knowledge is already there. That's why even our knowledge and all is only removal of ignorance. We are not creating any new knowledge. All knowledge is already there with Ishvara, with Bhagavan. And that all knowledge alone is manifest here. And whatever we are inventing also is really a possibility within that all knowledge. Understand that. Even though we talk about discoveries and invention and all that, even inventions are all possibilities within the same all knowledge. It is potentially there. That means. And Sarva Vairagya means total dispassion, freedom. Because Ishvara is complete, full. Total completeness is there. Not lacking anything. So you cannot say you are Bhagavan and say only if I have this I will be happy. So what is the problem of human being? Only if I have coffee I can be happy. Only if I have ice cream I can be happy. Only if I have this, or only if I don't have this I can be happy. This is our problem. Correct? We think that only if you have something you can be happy. But you read a joke, you see some comedy movie, you are still laughing, you are happy. That only proves that you don't have to really fulfill anything. You don't need to really have anything to be happy. Happiness is already there with you. You have to only discover it. But even that thing is not very easy to understand for many people. But Bhagavan is not like that. Bhagavan knows he is complete. He doesn't lack anything. He doesn't want anything. Okay. In fact, in Tamil, Tiruvalluvar says very beautifully, Vendudal Vendamai Iladan. Like that it says. Okay. Vendudal Vendamai Iladan is Bhagavan. Means he doesn't say that I want this. And he doesn't say I don't want this also. There is nothing called I want or I don't want. Such a being is really Bhagavan. Total dispassion. Does not lack anything. Happy with oneself, being oneself. That is Sarva Vairagya. Now all these put together is Bhaga, and the one who has this is Bhagavan or Bhagavati. So that here Vishnu Purana is saying that Aishwaryasya Samagrasya Viryasya Yashasasriyaha Jnana Vairagya Yoschaiva Shannam Bhagaiti Rana. Like this. This is also quoted by Shankaracharya in the Bhagavad Gita Bhashya. Okay. So in fact I picked it up from there only. Even one more thing about Bhagavan. Utpattim pralayam chaiva bhutanamagatim gatim veti vidyama vidyancha savachyo bhagavaniti. Like this. So Bhagavan means what? One who knows about this entire creation and its dissolution also when it is resolving. He knows how to bring out this creation, how to dissolve it. Also one who has complete knowledge about everything here. Okay, time, type, place of birth, death of all beings, birth of all beings, complete knowledge. Bhutanam agatim gatim, and their state. Okay, whether you are going to have pleasure, pain, he knows everything, past, present, future. So the one who knows the knowledge and ignorance of all beings. And ignorance means here also their activities and all that, karma. So the one who knows everything about all beings, really this is basically about all knowledge only. That person is Bhagavan or Bhagavati. So this is our understanding of Bhagavan. And we will be using this word hereafter, as I told you. The one who has Bhaga is Bhagavan. And Bhagavan, we are looking upon Bhagavan as also the giver of results of our action. This is a very important thing for us to understand here. Okay, we are going to understand Bhagavan as the one who gives us the results of all our action. And here again, one more important part of our way of life is there. Okay, one more important thing. What is that? So we say for every action you do, there are two results. Okay, not just one result. So what is that? What are those two results? Drishta phalam means seen result. Seen result means you experience, correct? You do something, you immediately experience the result. You write an exam, you pass or you are fail or you get some mark, correct? That is the result. You got that result. Fine. But the same exam, you cheated. Let us say you did something wrong. Then you will also have another result. Adrishta phalam. Adrishta means really unseen. Again, this adrishta is wrongly translated in English as luck. This is not really luck. Literally, the word adrishta is again there in every Indian language. And it means adrishta, unseen, not seen. And what is not seen here? If you do something right in a situation, in fact, you have a result and you also have a certain satisfaction, correct? Because if you always, when you do the right thing in a situation, materially you may have lost something also. You may have lost your money, you may have lost your time, but you helped somebody. But you feel good about it. You have a certain satisfaction. That is the Drishtapala, in fact. So whenever you do the right thing in a situation, you feel good about it. You have a certain satisfaction. Self-esteem also goes up. You have a good opinion about yourself because you did the right thing. But that is not the end of it. We say you also accrue something called punyam in your account. As an individual, all of us have our own account. Okay, this is the Bhagavan's account for us. Bhagavan is maintaining, or Chitragupta we say. We give a Devata name for this also. Chitragupta is the one who is maintaining your accounts. And in your account, Chitragupta is adding some punya because you did the right thing in a situation. And what if you do something wrong? There also seen immediate drishta palam is there. Fear, guilt, all that is there. And whatever you gained also by doing, because mostly we do wrong because of our own likes and dislikes. You are pressured by your likes and dislikes to do, even though you know it is wrong, you do it. Correct? Because somebody said whatever I like is either illegal, immoral, or calorific, like that. That's why conflict is there. All of us have conflict because what you like and what is right, if they are same, there is no conflict. You have a harmonious life. But where is conflict? Where is problem? What you like is not right. And you know that. Still you want it. That is the dilemma. That is the problem. That is the confusion of a human being. And you do that wrong thing. Pressured by your likes and dislikes means you have fear, you have guilt. You may have gained something else, but it's a bad bargain. Your gain is really a bad bargain. Okay, because you are also associated, immediately you get fear. What if somebody finds out that I have done wrong? And you also have a guilt. Oh, I have done this thing wrong. I have cheated somebody. I have done. I have caused hurt to somebody else. Because you know that you don't want the same thing to happen to you anyway, but you still go ahead and do it to somebody else. That means guilt will be there. Why did I do this? Then self-esteem also you are going to lose. In your own judgment, you have done something wrong means you are going to go down in your self-esteem. And that is not the end. You are also accruing papa according to our vision, according to our tradition. So if you do right in a particular situation, you also have Dhrittapalam, which is satisfaction, but you also have Dhrittapalam, which is punya, which is later on going to fructify as a pleasant experience, we say. Similarly, you do something wrong, driven by your own likes and dislikes, where only your ego is there. See, whenever you are doing something wrong, you are going against the order, the moral order, which is there. Again, moral order also is a manifestation of Ishvara. So essentially, you are going against the order. Only your ego is there. This limited person, driven by one's own likes and dislikes, you do something wrong knowingly. Then again, guilt, fear, loss of self-esteem, but papa, which is going to fructify later on as unpleasant experience, let us say. So punya papa is a very big thing in our culture, in our tradition, in our vision, in our way of life. That is what we call karma also. Okay, karma word has many meanings, but karma in this context is punya papa is karma, and it's a matter of belief. Let me tell you again. Don't ask me, show me where is karma, where is punya papa. Now we cannot show you. It is a matter of belief. But let us see what can be believed, what cannot be believed. Also, we have to be very clear. We'll talk about that also later. But right now we'll see this punya papa is again very important part of our way of life, our vision, and it is a matter of belief, and it goes along with our day-to-day experience. Again, here it is reasonable to believe this. That's what I will tell you. Why? Because we always see that we put some effort in whatever we do, but the results we get is also a function of some other unknown variables. The results we get depends on not just our effort. How do we know that? Our own experience is what sometimes I put in an effort, I get the expected result. Okay. Sometimes I get more than my expectation. I wrote an exam, but I got marks. I didn't expect I'll get so much. Somehow I got so many marks. Sometimes it is less than your expectation for the effort you put in. Sometimes it is totally opposite. You are going to the exam hall and some car hit you on the road. You are waking up in some hospital asking fundamental questions like who am I and all that. So our experience is that our effort alone does not determine the results. That means there are some other things which are also a factor. That unknown factor is the adrishta, unseen, unknown. That is the punya and papa also, which is fructifying. So always whatever we are getting in our life is a function of both your effort and punya and papa. Is that clear? So this also is a very important thing. In fact, we'll talk further about all these things. So today, maybe if some questions or anything is there, we can check out now. I don't know whether anybody is. Okay, there are some things are there in the chat. You are saying, how do we feel things around us if atoms are finally just charged space and not a solid object? That's a question. In fact, you have to ask the scientists, correct? we have our own theory of knowledge and how knowledge takes place. Maybe I'll talk about it later. Okay, but we'll come to that. That's all Maya. That's what is Maya, in fact. How you are asking, that's a good question. Okay, if there is only God and God is perfection, why aren't we perfect? I never talked about God as being perfect and all that. I'm only saying there is a certain order here. Again, this word perfection and all is a problem, I think. I never used it. Okay, why does Maya exist? In fact, if you see, if you go and check whether it exists or not, then we have to say it does not exist. That is the beauty of Maya. So we'll come to that question also. If creator and creation is the same, is it wrong to assume that creator is greater than creation? Not wrong. In fact, we do say, even in Purusha Sukta, it says, Pado osya vishwa bhutani tripadasya amritam didi. So this whole creation is only one pada. I think even Kalyanji was telling about it yesterday, correct? This creation is still only one. It doesn't really cover the entire reality of the creator, because the creator transcends space, time and everything. Okay, then what? Let us say I only have two choices and both choices hurt two different people. Okay, this is what is called Dharma Sankata. Again, see, in reality, there should not be any choice between right and wrong. But there are many times more than one right. Then how do I choose that? Or each one is seeing like two wrongs are there. There is nothing right also. Sometimes it looks like that. So how do I choose that? So there is a doctrine of greater good we have to see. Okay, in the Dharma Shastra and all, they talk about it. So we have to go along with that. Or here only we have to say, when you are in Dharma Sankata, you should go and seek the advice of your elders and gurus and all that. Even Upanishad itself says that. And it even tells you from whom you should seek advice. Because as a human being, you cannot claim ignorance as a defense. Understand that. You cannot say I did something wrong. You cannot even go to the court and say your honor, I did not know the law. Then your honor will say that's not a defense. Okay, ignorance is not a defense. So if you are confused, then you also have the responsibility to go and seek advice and get clarity. That's what even Arjuna did. He was confused. He asked Krishna. He in fact told Krishna, you have to teach me because I am your student, like that. So like that, you have to get it clarified from people who will give you advice, keeping your good and the greater good in mind, not their own good. Okay, that is very important. They should not have any conflict of interest. So you have to seek advice from such people, those who are dharma kamaha, like that the Upanishad says. So you have to go and seek advice from those who are dharma kamaha, those who are interested or desirous in establishing dharma. Okay, punya and papa are adrishta pala. Yes, okay. Can we equate Bhagavan to complete knowledge? Yes, Bhagavan is sarvajñaha. One of the aspects of Bhagavan is sarvajñaha, all knowledge. Unfair that something completely unrelated is affecting my hard work. It is not completely unrelated. It is your own papa punya. See, that is why karma is very good. Karma makes you take responsibility for your own situation today. See, most of our problem today is because of non-acceptance of the reality. In fact, exactly thinking like this, you think that it is somebody, it is unfair and somebody is the reason and all that. But if you understand karma correctly, whatever is happening right now to you, it's all because of you only. Is that clear? You can't even blame Bhagavan. It is your own karma which is fructifying. Is that clear? Then you take responsibility for that. And in fact, our tradition says you can even do prayaschitta. You can mitigate the effects. That is also a possibility. So as long as you are ready to do something, there is no sorrow, sadness. But if you keep sitting, why is it this happening to me? You become immobilized, means you will be in sadness only, you will get depressed. Is it clear? So as long as you are ready to do something to take care of your current situation, however bad it may be, then you have hope. Correct? You can do something always. In fact, that is what is the correct thing. Same question as Nivedita ji. I don't know what she asked. Anyway, okay, that Dharma Sankata. Fine. We'll talk a little bit about it more in the next class. Why does it not affect us immediately? Means that is how Ishvara's order is. Okay, some of them may affect. That's why he is the giver of the results of our action. Why do we look upon Bhagavan as the giver of our results of our action? Because we don't know which papa or which punya is going to fructify, but we do say that there is a prarabdha karma and all that. We will talk about it next class in more detail. Correct. Okay, some of you have made only some statements. Previous karma, birth karma affect this life means yes. How to overcome it? You can do some. That's what the astrologers are giving you. Correct. Astrologer does not predict the future. Understand that they are only modeling your prarabdha karma, and accordingly they can give you prayaschitta also to change that. It is like a missile has already left. You cannot stop it, but you can send another missile, like a missile defense system only. All these things are there. Okay. So you can go and in between intercept the other missile by sending another missile. That is your prayaschitta. Okay. You are saying it is acquired without our effort. It is very much your effort. Any adrishta phala is your own. Whatever you did, you have done something wrong. That only is rectifying again as papa. Okay. So don't say that it is not your effort. Okay. This karma is always individual, but I think this collective karma again is a question which comes because all this Purana, tsunami, earthquake and all is there. We'll talk about that. Yeah. What is the difference between milk becoming curd and gold becoming bangle? The difference is that one loses its nature, another doesn't lose its nature, correct? Gold is still gold, even if it becomes bangle. That is the greatest difference. That is what is called vivarta. Anyway, okay, so I think we will, you can keep sending your questions and all that, even in that WhatsApp, we will try to address everything, okay? Thank you. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om.